Okay, once it's implemented, you have to do a self-assessment, and you know, it's a form that you fill out. You have to do a self-assessment, and then once you do, well, you do your orientation first, then you do a self-assessment. Orientation will probably be all of us doing an orientation together. But then you do a self-assessment, and after you complete the self-assessment, then throughout the year, and we have a timeline, you'll receive walkthroughs, 2 formal evaluations. You have 4 walkthroughs, 2 formal evaluations, and then of course at the end of the year, a summative evaluation. Now, we're going to have a percentage of teachers that'll go through the whole process. And like I said, it will be learning. But all of us are going to take part in some of it. So you can get kind of used to, because next year, it's the way it is. So we don't want to take 8 teachers through it, and then next year, everybody's got to go through it, and it's all completely new to you, okay? So what we're going to do this year, the teachers that'll go through the whole process, you know, we'll do with them through the whole process all the way up to the summative, but the summative will just be a practice. GTOID is the real evaluation tool, but the summative will just kind of give you an idea. But everybody will do the self-assessment, so you can get used to doing that. And then everybody will do the number of walkthroughs. We'll do the number of walkthroughs, and we'll talk you through it. We'll discuss it. You know, just like we do walkthroughs, we'll let you know what this walkthrough, just like we always do, this walkthrough will cover differentiated instruction or whatever. Okay, so you'll kind of know what we're looking for in the walkthroughs. And then, but when it comes to, and we'll go through
Jordan McCaskill, please come to the front office. Jordan McCaskill, please come to the front office.
Everybody will go through the orientation, the self-assessment, the walkthroughs, but then the select percentage of teachers will do the evaluations and the summative evaluations, okay? So that's kind of how we're gonna phase this thing in. You know, everybody won't do the summative, everybody won't do the 2 formal evaluations, but a certain select group of teachers will do go through the whole process, okay? So just thought that would be a better way of phasing it in. I have a timeline that I will email out to all of y'all, so you just kind of know what's going on. But they even have a TEKS implementation plan. Like, for example, the 27th will be the orientation and the self-assessment, 27th of September. There's a TAPS reference sheet, and we'll get all this information out to you. That will do that. So we'll have orientations done by the 27th. You'll receive some of this stuff in your PLCs as you go. Then we'll have the pre-evaluation conference, but that'll be done everybody together. That'll be done in the faculty meeting. Because some of these conferences, you can do it with everybody. You have to determine whether you're going to do it with the whole faculty, whether you're going to do it with departments. But those pre-evaluation conferences, you can do it with everybody. Now, if you have an issue, if an issue arises, then your pre-evaluation conference will probably be kind of a face-to-face deal. But as long as there's no issues or whatever, those pre-evaluation conferences, they allow us to do, you know, them as far as whole faculty meetings. Then we'll start our walkthroughs. Then those of us that's going through the whole thing will have a formative assessment on January the 31st. Then you do your mid-year conference, which you can do it in group or face-to-face. And there again, it just depends on what your personal situation is, whether you can be part of the group or need to be done face-to-face. 28th walkthrough, March 28th, February 28th, March 28th for walkthrough, April 25th, formative assessment number 2, and then May 9th, summative assessment conferences, and then, of course, then we go into our in-service and all that kind of stuff. But that's just to kind of give you an idea of the TEKS implementation plan that we're going to do. Student surveys, the window is from October to March. We'll do student orientations the week of November the 11th through the 15th. And basically, that's just a short talk about the purpose and the importance of the survey so the students can take it seriously. Then the survey of the administration, November 18th through 22nd. Student orientation, second semester courses, student orientation, week of March 3rd through the 7th. And then the survey administration will be March 10th through the 13th. So November will be the student orientation, and the actual survey will be actually March 10th through the 13th. We'll orientate the students again the week of the 3rd through the 7th, so they'll get understanding. And so we'll pretty much try to follow this timeline. And like anything else, dates may change depending on if something, happens or whatever. But we'll try to stay as close to this timeline as we can. Ms. Binion is the one that's kind of spearheading this whole TEKS implementation plan as far as keeping up with the dates, and she's the one that kind of set this timeline, of course, with our input and things like that. But she'll be the one that's taking us through this implementation phase of this new evaluation system. Are there any questions for me concerning this? I know it's about clear as mud right now, but just wanted to kind of give you, and like I said, we'll just take our time. This is just something that we're going to slowly phase in, just want to kind of get you used to it. So then next year when it's on and it's live and it's part of our evaluation system, you'll have some type of idea of what you are in for. So are there any questions? Okay. During our leadership meeting this summer, among talking about different things, we came up with, looking at the data, y'all realize that we have a gap. We have issues with 2 segments of our student population that we need to fix: students with disability and also our black males. If you go in the data room and you look at the data and you see the charts, you can see those are 2 of our student populations where we have to figure out how we're going to reach them. We discussed it in our leadership meetings and everything. And what happens is, obviously, whatever we're doing is not reaching that segment of our population. Now, it's not all our black males, it's not all our students with disabilities, but it's a big enough percentage that when you look at the data, when everybody is here, they're kind of here. Then our student with disability, if you look at the chart, they're kind of down here. And it's kind of an up and down thing. It's kind of an up and down thing that we've got to get it to going up. So I tried to think of a way. Y'all know in the past we've done teach, retest, reteach. Some of us had issues with that, and the fact that we felt like students were not taking the first test seriously, waiting on the retest. We felt like some students were just asking questions before you even gave the first test. When was the retest? And then it really wasn't a clear, we had some that you had to come to tutoring before I retest you. Then we had some that I would retest you, but there was a certain ceiling that they could get. you know, when they got the retest. So we kind of muddled through that last year. And then so we had to reteach, retest. Then we had the data notebooks that we had to keep. And certain population of teachers only had to do the data notebooks. Then we had to do the portfolios. Then we had to do the benchmark testing. So we had all of these three, and they were three separate items that certain teachers had to do, which you turned in a data notebook. You kind of look at the information. In the back of it, you came up with a plan on what you were going to do to make that student achieve on that data notebook, okay? Well, I looked at the data notebooks, looked at the portfolios, looked at the benchmark testing. So then I got to thinking, how can I, and our biggest, out of all that, our biggest problem was all of this stuff that's required of us, and basically just simply not having enough time to do it. So in thinking about that, and we did our keeps and tweaks and things we want to get rid of and all of that stuff, and just kind of thinking about all that over the summer, try to think about a way, number one, how can I give, how can I put more time in the day? How can I consolidate some of this stuff? And how can we dig down into our elements of our standard to reach this population that we need to reach? Okay, so trying to figure out how we can do all of this without adding, and we've got this TEKS and LEAPS evaluation that's coming. So how can we do all of this without putting something else on your plate which is already overflowing? So in talking to the leadership team, I thought about it, and we came up with this formative assessment model that we talked about in our PLCs, and it was about as clear as mud. I think some of us left out more confused after the meeting than we were going into the meeting. So went back, revisited that, and wanted to try to clear this thing up a little bit. All right. In going through this model, I was thinking if we did this the proper way, it would incorporate all of those things. It would give us our data notebook. It would give us our portfolio. It would give us our benchmark testing. And it would give us our artifacts that we need once we go to this new evaluation system that we need to upload to the state, okay? So that's when we kind of developed this formative assessment plan. We kind of talked about it in the leadership meeting. We kind of tweaked it and whatever, and we came up with a form. But I think when we left out of the leadership meeting, I think we were all pretty clear on what to do, but somewhere in disseminating the information to our departments, some of the stuff got kind of lost. So we went back, tried to type this thing up, and just wanted to kind of give you kind of what the final product, talk about what we need to do, and then answer any questions that we may have as a faculty, and still maybe tweak it some more if we need to. Okay? So that's what I want to do. All right. You have to do to show student achievement. Okay? And then you have to show when you have this SWD population that's suffering, and you have this black male population, you have to be able to show not only as a school, but as an individual teacher, how you're reaching and what you're trying to do to get these students where they need to be. So again, talk about student achievement. So, I know it's warm in here. If you feel yourself leaving, just kind of stand up and get your blood flowing back again. All right, So what we decided to do, we decided you take a standard. Standards are made of elements. Now, Ms. Gilbert, jump in here anytime I get to drifting a little bit. The standards are made of elements. What we decided to do, you teach your class or whatever, you take 2 of those elements. Okay, you take 2 elements at a time. So if I got a standard that has 6 elements, I'm gonna teach the 2 elements at a time. How you do that, you can teach, some of y'all it's better to teach 1 element for a week, and then it's best to teach another element the next week. You know, you all are the experts on that, you kind of figure it out. But we want to teach 2 elements at a time. Then you want to assess those 2 elements just to see where the students are. Are they getting it or are they not getting it? And you want to give an assessment on those 2 elements, and both assessments have to have at least 5 questions per element. Now, if you want to give more questions, that's fine, but they got to have at least 5 questions per element. So I've taught 2 elements, or I've taught 1 element 1 week and another element the next week, okay? Before I move on to the next 2 elements, then I've got to make sure that they have what I just taught, okay? So I give them some form of formative assessment, whether it's a quiz. If I give a quiz and I put 10 questions on there, and I'll send y'all out the example here when I get back to my office. I would break that quiz up. I would give 5 questions on element 1, 5 questions on element 2. Okay, now I'm checking learning. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm checking learning. Once the students turn in that quiz, then I go to the sheet. I go to the sheet, the formative assessment sheet, and I fill it out. I put whatever the element is on each side. I put 5 questions. I've got my students' names on here, and Alan Gray in element 1, he missed 3 out of 5. I put a 3 in that column. In element 2, he missed 4 out of 5. I put a 4 in that column. Or Alan Gray may have got 5 out of 5 questions right. All right, but what that does, I look at that sheet, it gives me a snapshot of where I am, of where my classes are on those 2 elements that we taught. Just gives me a snapshot on it, okay? Now, with that information, I go back, and some of y'all, we were able to pair you up with another teacher in your classes. Some of y'all, because of scheduling, we were not able to do that. If I have another teacher that's paired up next to me, then we look at that assessment and we, what do you call it? Flexible group, thank you. We flexible group those kids. I'll take the half of Alan Gray, I'll take the first one, and then my partner teacher will take the second. I'll take the kids that got element that needed help in element 1. My partner will take the kids that needed help in element 2. Now the kids that got it, the kids that got it didn't need help, you can either give them, they can either stay with their current teacher and use them as peer helpers to help the other ones get it, or you can give them a choice of whether one kid may have it but may need a little more on element 1, or they may need a little more understanding on element 2. So they'll have a choice as to which one they can stay with their teacher, or do they want to go to the flexible group to the other teacher. All right. Now, if you're by yourself and you don't have a teacher that you can split with, then that's when you use your kids that got it. Use them to help you in your class to help the kids that didn't get it. Everybody with me so far? Okay? Now, once you do that, then there's your reteaching. And then when you feel good about, okay, I've addressed what the kids didn't get, I feel like they've got a good understanding, then you give your summative test. So you've done all of your teaching and reteaching on the front end. Then you give your summative test. So now your test should be kind of, as a class average, should be where you need it to be. Because you've already addressed the stuff on the front end that the kids needed help with. Okay? Once you give your summative, you feel good about it, you move to the next thing. So now you don't have, and of course, if a kid didn't do well and you want to that's completely up to you. If a kid still didn't do well and you want to require that student to come to tutoring and that's completely up to you. Okay? So now you've given your summative exam. Now you're ready to tackle 2 more other elements of that same standard, or that standard may have only had 2 elements, and you're ready to move on to the next one. Okay, now, any questions on that? Okay, now this is how we're gonna get our data notebook, this is how we're gonna get our benchmark testing, this is how we're gonna get our portfolios all wrapped up into one. Okay? The benchmark test was the actual quiz that you give to check the two elements, the understanding for the 2 elements. Okay? You just check your benchmark block. Okay? Your data notebook is once you give that summative assessment, you take those results, you take a sample of the quiz, of the formative quiz that you gave, you take the result, when you put your grades of the test in Infinite Campus, you take those results, you take the test that the formative assessment that you give, and you staple that to that sheet. Okay? Now you just built your data notebook. Okay? Because your data notebook shows your benchmark, it shows that you broke them down into 2 elements, and then it shows your results. So now you've just shown how you've done it, the way you've done it, whether you went flexible grouping, whether you differentiated with peer tutoring, you've just shown that. So that's your data notebook. That's your benchmark. Now when you have a parent conference, all you do is, if the parent conference is on Alan Gray, you grab Alan Gray's folder with his work in it, you grab that sheet, you go to the parent conference, there's your portfolio. Okay? So now, when I'm talking to a parent, then I have my data, and I can break it down as to why the student is doing well in my class, or as to what we need to work on, and as to why the student didn't get it in my class. Now you don't have a separate data notebook, you don't have a separate portfolio, and you don't have a separate benchmark. Okay? And when we get into this TEKS evaluation, and you have to upload data showing how you do it, you just upload whatever it is, you just upload those sheets and those artifacts or samples of it. Now you just covered your part on the data that you upload to the TEKS evaluation. Okay? So is everybody is it clearing it up a little bit more? Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Mention the items that are in the data notebook once again, please.
Okay, well, I'll send you a sample. But what you have, when you have your data notebook is the quiz, is the results of the assessment that you gave, whether it's a quiz, whether it's just a 10-question ticket out the door, whatever. When you put those results on that formative assessment sheet, then you're starting to build your data notebook. All right? Once you attach a sample of the assessment you gave, and then the results after you put it into Infinite Campus, once you attach that to that sheet, then that's your data notebook. Okay? You got a parent conference, you grab that student's folder with the student's work in it, you grab the data notebook, you put that together, that's your portfolio. And the fact that you're checking on learning, that's your benchmark data as well. Because the benchmark is checking where they are, and in that process, by breaking it down by elements, which we're supposed to assess on elements anyway, by breaking it down on elements, and checking, and also on that you highlight your black males and you highlight or you can put BM or SWD by your black males and by your students with disability. So that shows how we're trying to get this group, these two segments of our student population up with everybody else. So you do it all in one, you're doing it all in one process. Okay? So that's kind of the way this thing, and I apologize for the way it was put out. I probably should have did this right from the beginning, because it got a little distorted from the leadership meeting down to the teachers. All right, any questions on that process? So if I've got a standard that has 6 elements, okay, I should have 3 formative assessment sheets because I've done it every 2 elements, okay? Now, when you want to give your summative test, it's up to you. You can give it after the 2 elements, you can give it after all 6 elements. Okay? So when you give your summative assessment test, you can give it after all 6 elements after that standard because you've already in the process taught and retaught before you gave that summative test. You've already made sure, you've already checked on what they were getting, you've already gone back and retaught to make sure that they get what they're supposed to get. Okay? Any questions? Now, if you want to talk to me offline, you can do that as well. But if you have a question, it may help everybody else. All right? And we'll put the video online, so if you need to look at it again and remember what I said, it'll be online for the people that's not here. You getting it, right? All right. For the people that's not here. Okay? Did that clear it up for you just a little bit better? Okay. And again, if you have any questions. So just in summary, we're going to just want to make sure you understood that we were going to start this new evaluation process, the TEKS process, and also with the administration, the leadership keys evaluation process. And then just want to try to clear up and give a better understanding of our formative assessment sheets. On your formative assessment sheet, you can either use the sheets up there that we have duplicates. We'll send you out an electronic copy, or you can do with social studies pretty, but Ms. Miller, I remember Ms. Miller, and Ms. Miller, I think you did this. I think she cut the headings off of the top of the sheet and the bottom of the sheet, ran a copy of her Infinite Campus, went to the copier, put the heading on, ran a copy, and just made that her sheet.
That was a Jim Ferris original.
I should have known that's where it came from. But if you want to do that, I am fine with that. Actually, it's a pretty good idea.
Good work.
But it's a pretty good idea. So what they did, they ran off they input their stuff in Infinite Campus, ran a copy of it, cut the tops off of.
Go ahead and label your people.
Yeah, you gotta label your people. Cut the top and bottom off of my sheet, laid it on the copier, printed it, and then just filled the sheet out. If you want to do that, I don't have a problem with that at all. Instead of writing in everything.
One thing, the 10 questions now, like in social studies, some of our essential questions are so simple. 10 is too, 5 is too, seems like 5 is a lot. It's hard to get 5 elements out. 5 questions out of 1 element sometimes in social studies. You might represent 1 person